Hello everyone! I've been checking around on the PTR for patch 11.1.5 and I wanted to make a video to share some of the things that are coming to the game, talk a bit about the small portion of the story that's added. At this point in time, we don't have an official release date. There's been speculation for the end of April for a while now, and they have said that changing your guild name is going to be available in-game for gold. This change is going to be added on the 22nd of April, so most likely that will be the release date. But we'll see when we get an official announcement. Some of the content added might be released later in the patch cycle. Horrific Visions are set on the in-game calendar for the 20th of May, whereas the Dasterdly Duos are set for the 3rd of June. I am saying might be released later, as again, we're looking for official release dates. Who knows if the PTR calendar is right or not. At the same time, Mr. GM posted 2 loading screens, which do seem to support the idea of staggered content. Either way, we're gonna find out, I suppose. Now, some of the stuff added includes quality of life upgrades. They'll let you decide the color scheme for armor and items. So for example, right now, any loot that you would instantly sell to the vendor, that's gray. You can make that any color that you want. Or the epic sets, they're pink purplish, you can make it green or even legendary if that makes you happy. It's an accessibility option. Someone in chat suggested that this would make it easier for those coming over from other games to recognize the best gear, but you don't have to worry about the actual legendaries being devalued. This color change is only available for those using the option. When you check out the gear, it's still going to be in whatever color you have selected. They're also adding a built-in cooldown manager, which is something that a lot of people add to the game through add-ons right now, and it's gonna be part of the baseline interface, which you can turn on and off. I do think it still needs a fair bit of development, unless I'm missing how to do it, because right now I've not been able to find the option to remove certain abilities from the bar or rearrange the cooldowns or whatnot. It's a very baseline cooldown tracker that's still gonna need a fair bit of development before it comes close to what the add-ons can do, but at the very least, it's a start. For gameplay, we have those Dastardly Duos that I mentioned. It is a feature that I missed out on for testing, but the Blizzard post said that later in the patch cycle, players are going to be able to experience a new 6-week event, which again does seem to support the idea that this will be released later as the in-game calendar says. During this event, you can take on animatronic versions of bosses that we've taken on before, which is something that I was expecting to see during the Shadowlands, right? Warcraft greatest heroes and villains that passed on, now available as encounters. You can go in solo and get NPCs to help out, or you can go in with a party, enter the arena and murder anything while reaching for a high score. Multiply it by nerfing yourself, standing in the right spots, gather items and buffs to see who comes out on top. Rewards in the form of dungeon gear based on the bosses, cosmetics, and toys. Now I couldn't figure out if there's going to be a board that you can click on, right, to see everybody's score on the realm. There is a podium which you can use to show off your high score, but I personally think that a leaderboard would be awesome, that you could check out, like, okay, this is what my friends are doing on the realm, this is my high score right at the top, because otherwise you're kind of missing the social interaction that something like a Brawlers Guild would add. Next to that, there is the return of Horrific Visions, which, if you play during Battle for Azeroth, then you know what it's going to be. If not, the Horrific Visions, they were this scenario where the old god N'Zoth was trying to force his vision into reality. It's a future of what it wanted to do with Azeroth manifested, and together with Rephion and our trusty Cloak, we went in to investigate these visions, basically train to resist the madness of N'Zoth and get stronger against his influence. Aim of the game is to get through the visions with as many extra boss kills as you can before finishing off the final boss and completing the scenario. In your way are different kind of trash mobs and different kind of debuffs which make your run a little bit harder, but as you collect upgrades, the runs will become more manageable. You'll lose less sanity, your max sanity increases, and you'll take reduced damage. A big change compared to the Battle for Azeroth version is that this one doesn't require a bottle to enter, so you can practice and mess around as much as you like, farm it to your heart's content. Another change is that you can ask Soridormi for help, and she'll become a tank, DPS or healer, which is great for those that want to go in solo but still want a little bit of help. The more you get done in Division, the more resources you come home with, which you can spend on rewards, mounts, toys, transmog, and gear once unlocked. The gear goes as high as hero tiers, so a really good way to gear up your characters, but you do need to finish a horrific vision with at least 5 faceless masks active, so you're gonna have to finish one of the higher difficulties of the visions, which you're most likely not gonna be able to do on week 1, as you'll have to go through the upgrade system. There's also the return of Void Gear, or more specifically the effects of the Void Gear, now in the form of head enchants. Finish the questline in the horrific visions, and you'll be able to blast away again with things like Twilight Devastation or Infinite Stars. The corruption is coming back without the negative side effects. Now I've been asked why the visions are coming back, and part of me thinks that this is simply Blizzard turning older systems into that so-called evergreen content. Reuse what was done in the past with some upgrades in the reward system. There's some new difficulties added with his return in the War Within, but overall the visions have remained the same. Great for those that have never experienced it before, but hopefully in the future they might do it again, but then update it a little bit to, give it a bit of a more fresh feeling. You can apply this system of divisions to anything, really. You can adjust it. It doesn't just have to be Void. It doesn't just have to be Stormwind and Orgrimmar. On the other hand, it might be with great purpose that we see the return of the visions exactly as we had them before, to remind everybody of what we saw back then. Orgrimmar's visions and boss, there was Thrall taken over by the Voids. But the one in Stormwind is a lot more interesting, as we see Tyrellian die in front of Stormwind Cathedral, to which Illyria fully falls to the Void, and her son Arathor is taken away. We've seen Xal'atath focus heavy on messing with Illyria at the start of the War Within. She's been giving a short story, walking the streets of Quel'Thalas, and when she visited the Sunwell, things took a rather voidy turn. It was by accident, but what would happen if Tyrellian truly dies? Would she be able to fall to the corruption of the Void, and would she willingly return to the Sunwell, bring in whatever the Void would like to bring in? It's possible, and maybe this scenario is here to remind people of, hey, remember how N'Zoth had this vision of Illyria falling? But at the same time, it might just be bringing back old content to give us something to do. But what about any kind of new storytelling? Not so much, as it is a smaller patch. Players will take up arms besides a new faction, the Flames Radiance, to defend the Arathi against the Sereki forces, following the defeat of Queen Anserek. There are still Anserek loyalists out there, willing to put up a fight, and we join the Flames Radiance with Snuff in the Mouth. Now the Flames Radiance, they stem from an old legend back home that says where their glorious Empress marched her armies off to war, she left the people of the Empire unguarded. Enemies within their borders began to rise because of it. But it wasn't the military or the Empire that saved them in the end. It was the war veterans, the retired soldiers. Those who took up their extinguished torches, donned their battered armor, and rallied the villagers, farmers, and craftsmen. It was the people who held back the darkness until the light of the Empire returned. Upon the return, they say the Empress knighted those responsible for rallying the citizens of the Empire. She decreed the Flames Radiance, a sacred oath that all Arathi should adhere to. Should the light of the Empire fade, burn out, or vanish, it is the people's duty to rally each other. By the radiance of the sacred flame, they'll extinguish the darkness, and we get to help. We get a new event called Nightfall, in which we fight against the Sereki, and then we're sent out to fight against more the Sereki. A new renown track to be filled up, this time until rank 10, with each rank improving our Flames Ward buff, but also giving titles and tabards and all the rewards you're used to by now. One cool thing are the trinkets on the vendor. They have a flip to the next section on use option. And if you use the trinkets, it changes the primary stat of the trinkets and also its effects. So that's the major story progression as well as part of the major gameplay. Then the Winds of Mysterious Fortune is another buff added, a leveling event set to happen at some point in the patch, which gives 20% experience buff from level 10 to 80, 200% reputation buff for Dragonflight, 100% reputation buff for the War Within, and then quests and kills on the Dragon Isles and Kazhogar, they will reward mysterious satchels, which can contain equipment, cosmetics, and combat experience potions. All in all, for an in-between patch, they're adding quite a bit, but I am looking at that calendar and the staggered release of the content. If it's really going to be a month until the Visions and another few weeks for the Dasterdly Duos, then I'll probably treat it the same way as I did with the Siren Isle, which is wait until the end of the patch cycle, closer to the release of the big one, and then do all the content in one single go as it's gonna be fully released. It does look like a lot of great catch-up mechanics for alts and for reputations. There's plenty of stuff to farm out there, and while testing out the Nightfall stuff didn't really interest me, with a bit of luck, that Dastardly Duo system, it might actually give a fun challenge, but I won't be able to judge that until it's out. So for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time, see ya!